What's going on, everybody? Well, this past weekend we finally got the release of Dark Phoenix, which, depending on what goes on with the New Mutants, could be the final X-Men film to come out of what was once 20th Century Fox, the final X-Men film of this long-running, decade-spanning franchise. And this movie is failing miserably at the box office, with reception. It's pretty much, right now, go ahead, stamp it, failure. Currently, this movie is sitting at a 23% on Rotten Tomatoes, which means, if you're not familiar with how Rotten Tomatoes works, only 23% of critics gave it a favorable review. Doesn't mean that it scored 23 out of 100 as far as like a math quiz. It just means that they could have given it 2.5, 2.75, whatever. It means only 23% of the critics gave it 3 out of 5 and above. So you can look at the average critic scores and everything for diving into that a little bit deeper. I'm not somebody that likes to dive into Rotten Tomatoes too much, but there you go. 23% of critics. Box office for opening weekend, $33 million, which might sound like a lot of money to me and you, but it is by far, by a landslide, the lowest opening domestic that this franchise has had ever. The final chapter, the closing film, going out with a bang? Nope, going out with a gigantic fizzle. So I want to do a video talking about 5 reasons throughout the production, leading up to the release, after the release, that I believe led to this movie's failure. Now, this is not a review of the film. If you want to know my thoughts on the actual movie, you can check that out because I have a spoiler-free review and I have a full-on spoiler talk with CP from Willis Screedia. So you can get all of those thoughts there as far as the failures and successes of the actual film. This is just diving into things surrounding the movie that led to its loss of its connection with its audience, leading to $33 million domestic. And going in order from what I think is least effective all the way up to the most effective reason why this failed, number 5 is going to be XMen Apocalypse. Yes, we had Logan, huge success critically, fan-wise, money-wise, especially for an R-rated film. Yes, we had Deadpool 2, same thing, critically, fan-wise, money-wise, especially for an R-rated film, huge successes. But the most recent film regarding these characters, regarding the core X-Men characters, regarding this first-class version of this cast, was X-Men Apocalypse. And you will often see trends where if the previous movie failed to connect with audiences, failed to connect with critics, people didn't really like it all that much, the next movie is going to feel a ripple effect because of that. So no matter how much this movie might have been anticipated, even no matter how good some of the trailers might have been, or not have been, because the first one was pretty terrible, no matter all of that, there is a large percentage of people that when you see Dark Phoenix, when you see it being advertised, when you see the posters in the movie theater, they go, oh, the last one wasn't all that good, I'll pass. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think that Apocalypse is as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. It's certainly a disappointment, certainly a downward slope from the awesome Days of Future Past, but there's no arguing that movie was a disappointment and not nearly as good as it could have been and it should have been regarding the Age of Apocalypse storyline, having Bryan Singer back in the director's chair. It was disappointing for a lot of people, and that led to reason number 5 why Dark Phoenix failed. Reason number 4 is the fact that they decided to revisit the Dark Phoenix storyline. I know comic book fans and comic book nerds all across the globe could not wait for them to hopefully redeem the Dark Phoenix saga storyline in a future film. When they announced that's what they were doing, it was called XMen Supernova for a while, when they announced that Simon Kinberg, the guy that has been most closely attached to producing these films and the one that's been championing going back to this storyline, was going to be in charge, writing, directing, a lot of people got excited about that. Unfortunately, everybody outside of comic book fans that know that Dark Phoenix saga storyline, they see the trailers and they hear the storyline and the plot synopsis and they all go, didn't we already do this? Your casual moviegoer doesn't understand that there's a lot more juice to squeeze out of that saga storyline. There's a lot more things that they can explore. There's a lot of things that didn't get explored in X-Men The Last Stand. Even if they didn't like X-Men The Last Stand, they don't see it as the Dark Phoenix saga wasn't really told right. They just see it as, well, that movie wasn't all that great. So you throw the same exact seeming movie in front of them, especially following a movie like XMen Apocalypse, where they didn't care for it that much and probably didn't identify with these new characters as much as the original crew in X-Men, X-Men 2, and X-Men The Last Stand. You're gonna get a lot of people that go, this sounds very familiar, been there, done that, I'll pass. Number 3 is just an unfortunate thing that happens nowadays, and that is the production problems that was just riddled all over the internet throughout the entire process of this film. We live in a time where information is very readily available. It's very quickly available. There's plenty of it out there. So nowadays during a movie production, especially one that's poised with problems or drama or anything like that, there's very little that us moviegoers and us internet bloggers and everything do not find out about at some point. And this movie was riddled with production problems. Seemed okay at first. Maybe people weren't really too keen on Simon Kinberg doing a directorial debut with this, but you get the production of this movie, everything is shot, everything seems good. They have a release date, and then they push that release date back almost a full year, and everybody goes, whoa, that's not a good sign. Then we start hearing reports that producers and big heads over there at 20th Century Fox aren't very happy with the product that they have in front of them right now with Dark Phoenix. You even had some people calling it a disaster. You had an entire third act that was completely scrapped and reshot so that they didn't seem as similar to Captain Marvel as apparently their original third act was going to be. I don't think anybody would have cared, but nonetheless, they had to reshoot the entire third act. Then the movie got delayed again. These are things that do not make people feel warm and fuzzy nowadays. Things that probably happened a ton of times in the 80s, the 70s, the 90s that we didn't give a shit about because we didn't really hear about it that much. Nowadays, you hear production problems, you hear reshoots, you hear delays, and everybody freaks out and thinks about movies like this. So just like good old Justice League, no matter if the trailer sells you, no matter if you were looking forward to this, or if you love the characters, if you love previous films, production problems overall tend to wane people's expectations and tend to wane people's desire to go out to see a film. Now we're at number 2, and most people probably would argue that this is the one that most directly contributed to it, but I have one that I think was a little bit stronger. But number 2 is just the basic thing of reviews and the marketing. The movie was not marketed very well, especially that first trailer. That first trailer was flat out trash. Like, it showed nothing epic whatsoever. It showed nothing that made me want to go see an X-Men movie that I was a huge fan of. I'm a huge fan of this franchise, and I actually liked X-Men Apocalypse more than most people, and I really wanted to see what they could do with this Dark Phoenix saga storyline with that class of kids that they casted in Apocalypse, especially Sophie Turner. You see the first trailer, and it's just like, this does not excite me. This does not pump me up. This does not make me think of an epic storyline like this. This really looks like a melodramatic version of events from X-Men 3: The Last Stand. And that is not good. And that goes back to my 4th point. Then you had the other marketing, which was a little bit better as it went along, but there still was just never this really feeling of this epic scope that this storyline should have. It just felt like for a final chapter, for a closing conclusion, for something that merits revisiting this storyline, it never really felt like it earned its purpose for existence. And a lot of people saw the trailer, saw the marketing, felt the same way. Then you get the release of the film, you get reviews, and I'll be the first to tell you, I think a lot of the reviews are ridiculous with this film. I think a lot of people saying it's the worst X-Men film are flat out wrong and probably have not seen X-Men Origins Wolverine in a long enough time to actually say that accurately. But at the same time, if you saw my recent ranking, it was just above X-Men Origins Wolverine, but there was still a huge gap in quality in those. I think the movie was decent enough, but you had a lot of really negative reviews. And like I said with the Rotten Tomatoes scores, only 23% of critics gave it a thumbs up and said, you should see this. Everybody else either said, it's okay, it's mediocre, or it was flat out bad. And just like people who are tuned into the Hollywood machine and the production problems of certain movies or whether a movie's going good or bad, people are tuned into those critic scores nowadays. People are a little bit more guarded of that money. They don't want to go out and just throw caution to the wind and go see a movie if everybody said it's shit. They actually tune in, check out the Rotten Tomatoes scores, check out YouTube reviews like mine and many others to decide whether or not they want to dump that money on a movie or save it for the next one or go see something that their girlfriend wanted to go see. People are a lot more selective nowadays, so with that bad marketing and with bad reviews, there you go. Not a whole lot of people are going to go see your movie. But to be honest, I think the number one factor for why this movie failed to get asses in the seats is the fact that Disney acquired 20th Century Fox. This is the same type of effect that you saw with something like The Punisher Season 2 on Netflix. A lot of people most people loved The Punisher Season 1. Most people saw the trailers and the marketing leading up to Season 2 and could not wait for it. But then what did Netflix do? They canceled everything. They canceled all of their Netflix Marvel shows, including their big one, Daredevil. And basically everybody from that point on said, well, Punisher's gonna be canceled, this is the end, so whatever. And the views dropped like crazy. Not a whole lot of people watched Punisher Season 2 because they knew there was nothing long-term to invest in. Same effect here. People might have been excited when this movie was put into production. They might have been excited when they were told they were gonna do the Dark Phoenix saga storyline. They might have been excited walking out of the theater with Apocalypse. They might have liked that movie. But as soon as that mouse dropped all that money and bought 20th Century Fox, all anybody could say was, when is the MCU gonna get the X-Men? When are they gonna reboot the X-Men? When are the X-Men gonna show up with the Marvel films? When is the X-Men gonna be over there at Disney? When is Disney gonna do an X-Men film? Nobody cared about what 20th Century Fox was doing with this franchise anymore. I say nobody, most people did not. So even though they might have had a good enough trailer for somebody, they might have had, somebody might have heard from their friend the movie was pretty good, there was a lot of people that heard that Disney had bought Fox, that eventually the X-Men and Fantastic Four and anybody else they acquired was going to be going to the MCU, and they mentally checked out of this entire franchise and said, well, whatever, that's over with. Whatever else they're going to be doing is not going to lead to anything. And they didn't know it was going to be the final film before they shot it, so it's not like it's going to be this big closing chapter on purpose, so I don't even care. I'm just going to wait to see what Kevin Feige can do. And there was a lot of people online that you could see that leading up to this movie. They were like, I don't even care. All the production problems, I don't even care. Whatever. Give it to the MCU, let them do it. Whatever with Dark Phoenix. And I think that's the biggest reason, especially in a time where the Avengers makes ungodly amounts of money. People love the MCU. People love the Disney Marvel property, that they completely lost interest in the 20th Century Fox X-Men. No matter how great Logan was, no matter how great Deadpool 2 was, they saw a movie regarding the core X-Men that was not going to be continued no matter what when it goes over to Disney, and they said, forget it, not even gonna waste my time. And despite all the bad reviews, despite the poor marketing, despite the production problems, despite revisiting a familiar storyline, and despite a low reception of the previous X-Men film, I think that is the number one reason why this movie failed to connect with audiences and why it failed to draw a lot of people in, leading to the lowest box office opening of this entire franchise, even decades ago. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with my reasons? Do you disagree with the order of those reasons? Do you have other reasons? Like maybe Game of Thrones fans were pissed off and didn't want to support Sophie Turner. Maybe the Wolverine factor, the fact that Hugh Jackman was done and wasn't going to be in this movie. A lot of people checked out because of that. What do you think are some of the main reasons why this movie failed? Did you see it? Do you feel like it deserved to fail? I don't feel like it deserves the 23%. I don't feel like it deserves some of the reviews that it's getting, but I understand the failure. So what are you guys' thoughts on Dark Phoenix, this failure, this franchise as a whole? Does it leave a sour taste in your mouth, or can you look past it and say, we got some awesome movies out of this franchise, bravo 20th Century Fox for the times that you did have your head on straight? And are you looking forward to what the MCU does with the X-Men? Do you feel like it's going to come soon, or do you feel like it's going to be like 2023 before we see any kind of new Wolverine, new Cyclops, or new Professor X hanging out with Spider-Man? Let me know down below in the comments section. Also check the video description below for social media links like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my Spreadshirt store, and also something I'm trying out, my Teespring store. So if you actually scroll down in this video, whether you're on mobile or on desktop, you're gonna see links for merchandise right there below the video. You don't have to click off to go to a different site. It's all right there. You got coffee mugs, you've got t-shirts, sweatshirts, socks. If you want to wear Cody Leach socks, that would be funny. Send me a picture if you buy Cody Leach socks. And you can check all that out down below. So that's something I'm trying out to see if maybe this is more user-friendly, a little bit more appealing to people than Spreadshirt. And if it does, I might get rid of Spreadshirt altogether. It's all the same merchandise. Check that out down below, please, and let me know. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to this channel, and you will not regret it. And also check out my Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel and help this channel grow and get cool exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron. So check all that out, guys. And if you want to check out some more of my videos, including my spoiler-free and spoiler discussion of Dark Phoenix, you can check that out by clicking right over here.